Undertaking this iconic trilogy is certainly no small task. I was quite intimidated to even review it at all, really, because there's so many other reviews of this series of movies on YouTube, and I really didn't think I would be able to add anything new. But then again, that kind of applies to like the majority of movie reviews on YouTube, so whatever. As I'm sure you know, these movies are very, very long, and yet the pacing never really stutters. I watched the extended versions, and the absolute highest compliment I can give is that I, a connoisseur and advocate of the less is more ideology, sat through all 11 hours of these movies and wasn't bored, not for a single second. There's this distinct quality and visual style that sets these movies apart from other similar fantasy movies. The practical effects have a key role which I believe heavily contribute to the staying power of the trilogy. These then groundbreaking special effects combined traditional practical work with digital enhancements. More often than not, it does look better when there is actually something in front of the camera. There are several scenic sets specifically constructed for these movies, say that 5 times fast. The Shire, Edoras, Moria, and Minas Tirith. The latter two were mostly miniature work with partial areas constructed to scale. Still, like I said, it just looks better when there is something really in front of the camera. There is a lot of green screen used, yeah, but when they can, very frequently there are practical effects used, which I have a lot of appreciation for. And whenever green screen or any other sort of computer generated imagery is on the screen, it's mainly for stuff that wouldn't look real anyway, like the Eye of Sauron, the trolls, Saruman's orb thingy. And in terms of scale, these just get more and more audacious as they go. You start in this small little village, and eventually we get shots like this or this. These epic, like inconceivably large battle sequences. More importantly, to me at least, the creature design and makeup were also practical. Mostly. The Uruk-hai's grotesque appearances, that's some grade A prosthetic work right there. The main big bad orc from the first movie is menacing as fuck. This evil bastard is genuinely unsettling. Licking the knife that Aragorn just stabbed him with. Also, when he chucks the knife back at Aragorn and he slashes it out of the air, that was legit, by the way. I only found this out recently. This fucking menace threw a real knife, not a prop knife, a real knife, and this fucking legend batted it away. Aragorn stabs him and this fucking goober pulls himself down the blade. Here's some more notable practical work for the orcs. When they're encased in this funky gelatin shit, being birthed in the mines, it's grotesque and dirty. On the contrary though, Gollum is largely digital. But under the hood there's our favourite ape, Andy Serkis. This guy is a masterclass with motion capture and facial acting. With motion capture technology, it records your facial movements as well as your body movements. But you'll notice that they sometimes need to really over-enunciate things and open their mouth real wide. Kinda exaggerate mouth and facial movements. So you want to see a master at work in this field? Refer to the shifting expressions between Gollum and Smeagol. On the topic of facial acting, Elijah Wood does a really good job of selling the burden of the ring incrementally across all 3 films, mostly with just his eyes alone. A good chunk of Frodo's development is told through those subtle but powerful facial expressions that capture his inner turmoil, as well as the development of his bravery in the face of Sauron's ever-growing darkness. Often there are these sudden jarring splints of darkness to remind viewers you ain't watching no family-friendly adventure movie. Quick cuts to explicit violence or disturbing imagery. Little blips like Frodo getting his finger bit off. Like it's not really gory and it doesn't really linger for too long, but you feel and see the visceral impact of the violence. No punches are pulled, and I fucking love that shit, man. I mean, we even get lengthy scenes that are like overbearingly dark. The scene where the ring wraiths attack the hobbits on Weathertop, there's these rapid, like, disorienting cuts. Frodo is just utterly helpless as he's pierced by the Morgul blade. Something out of a horror movie. You know, it's not like pull the covers over your eyes scary, but it keeps you on the edge of your seat. Like this part. Or this part. Shocking imagery or dramatic shifts in the colour grading or, well, even exposure. Another example is like how the room goes dark when Gandalf shouts at Bilbo at the start of Fellowship.
Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks.
Yes, there's certainly a lot of dark in these movies, but through it all, the friendships and character dynamics make all the struggle seem less so. Sam is Frodo's rock, just constantly there to give his support. His unwavering optimism and practicality is crucial to their journey. He's always there to reassure or motivate Frodo during their lowest moments. Still, there's a lot to be said for Frodo too. I mean, his evolution from the sheltered hobbit to, you know, the ring bearer. You've got to give him his flowers. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, he doesn't become this all-powerful superhero or anything, but he's still exactly what Middle-earth needed. Still, Sam and Frodo are a team, although Frodo is the one carrying the ring. He often looks to Sam for support, advice, reassurance, etc. And Sam's willing to endure the most immense fucking hardships and go through these ridiculous levels of danger for Frodo, carrying him up Mount Doom and protecting him against Gollum. Sam's dedication seems to be rooted in something deeper than friendship. It's almost like familial. I mean, there's a few moments where, you know, they'll share a moment and it looks like they're straight up about to kiss each other. Come on, you were thinking it too. I mean, you know, don't fucking look at me like that, you cheeky. It is really refreshing to see Frodo and Sam portray such a strong and intimate, platonic male friendship. Something the likes of which we really aren't used to seeing in media, or like at all really. There's real emotional dependence and vulnerability shared between these two. Comes to a head when Gollum convinces Frodo of Sam's supposed plan to steal the ring off him, and then Frodo sort of banishes Sam from the quest, if you will. When he curls up and cries, it shows how much Sam truly cares for him. So much so, he still does not give up, even in the face of a big fuck-off spider. He dodges that stinger like half a dozen times and fends off this fucking humongous beast. Unfortunately, not in time to sweep Frodo off his feet and ride off into the sunset unscathed, but still, he does end up saving Frodo for real later down the line. There's real, deep, earned character bonding here. Not just between Frodo and Sam either. There's Gandalf and Bilbo, Aragorn and Arwen. It really does feel like these characters have known each other for decades. If we're talking the most memorable, then Legolas and Gimli, it doesn't really get much better than that. A lot of their initial interactions, they're very standoffish and sharp with one another. Eventually they evolve to have banter and friendly competition. A recurring bit is how they each count how many kills they get per battle and compare and contrast at the end. During the battle for Gondor in return, you hear Legolas quietly counting to himself as he climbs up the Oliphant here. Also, mildly off topic here, I saw a YouTube video the other day about the problem with Legolas as a character. Was that, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but it was along the lines of Legolas has very little character development, this, that and the other. This man is nearly 3,000 years old. Did you expect him to have some sort of grand revelation in this trilogy? There are several characters with flat arcs in these movies, and in like a lot of movies. That doesn't necessarily make them bad characters, and it's not necessarily a bad thing at all. If there's nothing inherently wrong with the character in universe, do they need some sort of arc? The answer is no. Anyhow, as the journey progresses, Legolas and Gimli's friendship evolves and they form this bond that is strong enough to overcome all the historical prejudices and conflicts, kinda unofficially reuniting the elves and dwarves with this iconic line.
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
I could do that.
So that is something that, in my opinion, is key to these movies. The central theme of unity. It's all about mankind coming together and fighting as one, putting aside their differences. Basically everything you want to see happen before the credits roll happens in Return of the King, or even earlier. Everything is set right. Gollum finally regains his precious, only to die with it. The most fitting end that character possibly could have had. Aragorn is made king. The hobbits return to the Shire. Frodo does leave at the end, but it's all for good reasons and it's not like random or out of place or anything. Gimli and Legolas presumably also return to their homes, and once again everything is in balance. So those are the topics that I wanted to hone in on and focus on in this video, but It wouldn't feel right to make a video about these films and not kind of touch on everything, at least a little bit. So let's do a quick roundup of all the characters I haven't really went into detail on. Gandalf. Obviously this guy is one of the best characters in these movies. He's basically the archetype of a wizard. His booming voice and imposing height, well, at least how tall he's made to look anyway. Love when he walks into the chandelier in Bilbo's house and then emphasizing the difference in the sizes of the characters. And that's cool as well, how all the characters are mostly to like canonical scale, all achieved with a blend of body doubles, camera trickery and CGI. It works really well though. There is one or two parts where if you focus on it you realise, yeah, that guy's green screened in right there, but that's just me being overly vigilant. It's never to the point where it takes you out of the immersion. I love the consistency and dedication to maintaining the height differences between characters. Aragorn. This dude's just a fucking straight badass. I'd say he's my favourite character in this trilogy. Not a lot of nuance to him. Like, he's not all that quirky or anything, and he's not really used for any comic relief or anything like that. But there's certainly a lot of depth to his character. The weight of his birthright and his love for Arwen is always on his mind, as well as his loyalty towards her. Regardless of how much Eowyn just won't fucking leave him alone. Just fucking give it up, man. God. Merry and Pippin. Frankly, I do like these characters, but like, you could take them out of these films and not a lot really changes. They do have a good chunk of importance to the climax of the Two Towers, gathering the Ents to march on Saruman. But other than that, they just kind of flounder and get in the way a lot of the time. I'm being a little bit harsh because they do have excellent development and their bravery grows all the way through the trilogy. But still, they're probably the most forgettable characters to me. Or like the least memorable. Is that the same thing? I don't fucking know. I would never forget them. There's just not a lot of Merry and Pippin scenes that I look forward to upon rewatches. You know what I'm trying to say. I love the dynamic of like paternal incompetence between Faramir and Denethor. Denethor constantly puts this poor guy down, always comparing him to his brother Boromir. This guy, by the way, is a fucking prick. He straight up gets what he fucking deserves. On the other side of that, Boromir's death is so legitimately beautiful, it brings a tear to my eye every single time I watch Fellowship. His unbreaking spirit, he fights and fights as the arrows pierce him, his desperate cries as the hobbits watch helplessly, and still he stares death right in the face as he draws an arrow up his bowstring. You fought bravely, Boromir. You have kept your honour. His brother Faramir is an excellent character too. Way too many close calls with this guy, always putting himself way too far in harm's way for his fuckhead father's approval. Yet again, you got what you deserved, you silly cunt. I did speak about Gollum earlier, but like not really about his character as such. His tale is that of woe and tragedy. Expertly done. So much so that it somehow manages to make us feel bad for this thing. He's even pretty likeable in my opinion. Dare I say, kinda cute for like the first 70% of the Two Towers. You just feel bad for him, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, poor guy. Like I said earlier, Gollum died in the only suitable way. That brief look of happiness and relief after all those years, it's a great scene. Such a fucking magnificent climax to this epic tale. Yeah, these movies are fucking awesome, and I'm sure I could talk about these things all day long, but what I have talked about is what I really like about these movies. What stood out to me the most. I don't even have much to say about these movies in terms of like a critique or like a negative thing. They really are just like perfect from start to finish, to be honest. There isn't a part where I think, well, why did they do that? So many franchises have those parts where you almost want to look away from the screen for a second to pretend that something inconsistent or cringy or nonsensical didn't happen, like a stupid fucking Marvel joke that just spoils the tension of a scene. Lord of the Rings has its humour, but it's mostly like subdued and played down. It's realistic, but more importantly, like all the character development and bonding, it's earned. It's never crammed where it's not wanted. All humour is genuine and in its right place. So yeah, I feel I should award these movies the second ever
Sir Swish Seal of Approval.
A very sought after award only given to the best of the best. Enjoy your place next to Toy Story on the Sega Mega Drive. I'll cover the Hobbit trilogy soon, so stick around for that if you're interested. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned.